name is Sean Gunn. I'm going to start with a tune. It's called Yellow Flower. It's kind of a love tune that I had, my own composition. Do 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 ba do da do 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 sitting here thinking about your face do 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 ba do 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 do. Oh, how I wish I was in his place do 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 ba do 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 do. I once was a man who was in your dreams do 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 ba do 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 do. But now I've been replaced, it seems do 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 ba do ba do. How you look so fine. Do do, watching you do, but do 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 do, wishing you were mine. Do do do, oh how sad. Do ba ba do is the Asian man. Do da do do, wishing you do 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 would take his hand. Do ba ba do, yellow flower on my lapel. Fare thee well. Do do. Ba do ba do ba do ba do 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 da do 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 ba do 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 ba do 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 ba do 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 da do 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 da do ba do ba do da do do ba do da da do da 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 do 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 da 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 da. Sitting here thinking about the years do do ba do ba do ba do ba do. Oh, how the time has dried the tears do 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 ba do ba do ba do. You once were someone who was in my dreams do 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 ba do ba do ba do. But now I've woken up, it seems do 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 ba do ba do 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 do. Wishing mine do ba ba do. Oh, how sad do 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 is the Asian man do 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 do, wishing you do 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 would take his hand do ba ba do. Yellow flower on my lapel, fare thee well da do 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 da do 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 da do 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 da da do 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 da 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 do da 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 do 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 da da la da 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 da. Thank you. A tune called Yellow Flower. And I was going to do another tune. It's about actually a man who was a friend of mine. His name was Gim Wong. He was at the age of 83. He decided to ride a motorcycle across Canada to publicize the issue of head tax for Chinese Canadians. And Gim was, actually it was during World War II, he was on a bomber crew, a flight engineer. So he was on member of the Royal Canadian Air Force and a war vet. Anyway, he got to Ottawa, and the Prime Minister at the time was a guy named Paul Martin. And Paul Martin was giving the speech. And Gim was in the audience, and he was demanding to speak, I guess have an audience with Paul Martin. Anyways, about 6 big undercover RCMP guys grabbed Gim, and they dragged him into a side room, and they questioned him, but when they found out he was a World War II vet, they let him go. Anyway, this song is about Gim Wong, so I'm going to have to find the key again. Hang on a sec. Yeah. Gim Wong dooba 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 doo. He was a kick-ass dragon man. Dooba 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 doo. Gim Wong dooba 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 doo. For social justice takes a stand. Dooba 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 doo. Motorcycle crosses land. Head tax redress. He demands a dooba 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 da ba 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 da. The born and pender guy down in Vancouver, Chinatown. He took on all those bigots when they tried to put him down. When communities came calling, he did not do no falling. The bomber's crew in World War II. All people's hero leading the fight for Chinese Canadian rights. A dooba 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 da ba 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 Gim Wong dooba 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 doo. He was a kick-ass dragon man. Dooba 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 doo. Gim Wong dooba 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 doo. For social justice takes a stand. Dooba 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 doo. Motorcycle crosses land. Head tax redress. He demands a dooba 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 ba 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 da ba dooba da 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 ba ba da 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 ba ba do da 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 ba ba do da 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 ba ba do da 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 do da 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 ba do da 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 ba ba do ba da 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 ba ba do ba da ba do da 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 ba ba do ba da ba do ba 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 do ba da 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 ba do ba da ba da. Gim Wong do ba do ba do ba do. He was a kick-ass dragon man. Do ba do ba do ba do. Gim Wong do ba do ba do ba do. For social justice takes a stand. Do ba do ba do ba do. Motorcycle crosses land. Head tax redress. He demands a do ba do ba do ba da ba 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 da. The born and pender guy down in Vancouver, Chinatown. He took on all those bigots when they tried to put him down. When communities came calling, he did not do no stalling. Flight engineering, a bomber crew in World War II. Now a people's hero leading the fight for Chinese Canadian rights. Do da da ba ba do ba da ba 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 Gim Wong do ba do ba do ba do. He was a kick-ass dragon man. Do ba do ba do ba do. Gim Wong do ba do ba do ba do. For social justice takes a stand. Do ba do ba do ba do. Motorcycle crosses land. Head tax redress. He demands a do da da ba 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 da ba ba ba. Motorcycle crosses land. Head tax redress. He demands a da 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 ba 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 do ba da da. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing your original compositions with us. In case you're following closely in your order of service, you'll see things have already changed. Unfortunately, our people player, Zoe, came down with the flu, so we're shuffling everything today, so please be patient with us if there's any disorganization. So welcome, everyone, to the Sunday service of the Vancouver Unitarians, streaming from our sanctuary on the corner of 49th and Oak in Vancouver, BC. My name is Paul Prescott, and I'm a member of the worship services team, and I'm very pleased to have supported Meja in creating today's service, celebrating the Hakka culture. Meja has invited some friends, some of whom you've already met, to join us for this unique service. For those who are new, our Unitarian community is dedicated to spiritual growth, social justice, and a reverence for nature and all life. Our Mandarin name is Sung Dao Wei, which means seeker of the way, and we embody these values through worship, ethical action, artistic expression, and religious education. We want to connect hearts, heads, and hands. I've invited our guest, Jin, to give a land acknowledgement, Jin He, to give a land acknowledgement in Hakka and in English, and then Kathy Sailors will deliver a message from the board.
Hi, everyone. I will first do my introduction and land acknowledgement in Hakka language, and then in English. 大家好，我嘅名係何劍龍，我係中國廣州柏園區柏山通苗寨坪嘅客家人。感謝今日用心在 Musqueam Squamish、Tsleil-Waututh 同 Stolo 原住民嘅領土同大家分享我嘅客家故事。Hello everyone, hello ancestors. My name is Jin He. I'm a Hakka Chinese from the village of Pak San Tung Miao Zhe Piang in Guangzhou, China. As a Hakka person, as a guest in many ways, I'm grateful to share my Hakka journey here today in the Unitarian Sanctuary on the unceded ancestral territories of Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people and Stolo people. I welcome you and our ancestors to be here today. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kathy Sayers, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. Today is our fourth question of the month, and you're going to like this one because it is so easy. You don't have to think about anything, and you have to do very little. So we're asking you to put a pin at your address, and we're going to color code those pins by age. And that will give us an idea of what neighborhoods people live in. And we hope to be able to gather you at the tables at a lunch by neighborhood so you can know each other a little bit better. Super easy. This will be at the board table. Leslie Hill asked us to mention that Catherine Robach's Celebration of Life will be this Friday, March 20th at 11 o'clock. And today, we're privileged to have two forums. And there's an insert in your order of service about each one. The first, right after the service, will be in the fireside room, and the social justice and intercultural teams will be sponsoring a forum on an introduction to apartheid-free communities. This is an initiative that is from the American Friends Service Committee, the Quakers. And then at 2 o'clock, as you can easily read, there's a forum with the BC Information and Privacy Commissioner, Michael Harvey. And that will be here in the sanctuary.
Thank you, Jin and Kathy. The poet Rilke once said that love consists in this: two solitudes that meet, protect, and greet each other. And so it is that we allocate exactly 1 minute in each service for you to greet your neighbors. I'll bring you back with the gong. I'd love to let that go on all day, but we can continue it in Hewitt Hall afterwards. So please join me for opening hymn number 123, Spirit of Life, which we will sing once in English and once in Mandarin, and the words will be on the screen.
Oops, it's okay. Oops,
It's okay, do it without.
without?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Hi, I'm going to share a poem by the very well-known Chinese poet. The name is Su Shi. The way it's spelled is S-U-S-H-I. So it's not sushi that we love to eat. Su Shi. Okay, the title of the poem in Chinese is 水调歌头. In English is Where would the moon be bright? And this poet is from Song Dynasty about 1400 years ago. I will read it in Chinese first, Mandarin, and then in English. 明月几时有，把酒问青天。不知天上宫阙，今夕是何年？我欲乘风归去，又恐琼楼玉宇，高处不胜寒。起舞弄清影，何似在人间？转朱阁，以以户，照无眠。不应有恨，何事长向别时圆？人有悲欢离合，月有阴晴阳缺，此事古难全。但愿人长久，千里共徜徕。When was the moon ever so bright? With a cup in hand filled with wine. I asked the vast dark blue empyrean, what year is it in heaven tonight? Could I be taken there on a winged ride? But I fear it would be cold up so high in the riches of the moon's jade palace. I'll dance a satire to the shadow of mine for some earthly joy in the moonlight, in our mortal world of humankind. Drifting past the red pavilion, the moonlight lower her gaze, through crafted windows, keeping me awake. Oh, brother, such is life. It's been 7 years since our last reunion. And when we are apart, she is full and bright. It's a spell beyond the moon and mankind. Life is just ups and downs, welcomes and goodbyes. The moon waxes and wanes, dims and shines. May we now and always, peace to our hearts, share the same moon goddess in paradise.
I'd like to invite up Jin to light our chalice for us. Together we light this candle. Together we see its light. With kindness and in deep bonds of community, with love for the human family in all its variety, with reverence before the world and its teeming web of life, may we care for our earthly home and for each other with courage, love, and justice. Now I would like to invite up all of those who enjoy a good picture book, whether they be young, middle-aged, or elder, and Nan Gregory will read for us.
Sit right by me. You can see. Okay, so this book is called Be a Good Ancestor. And for those who don't know, our ancestors are our family members who lived long, long, long ago. And we will be ancestors for our family members who live long, long after us. And this is a book about being a good ancestor. It's written by Leona Prince and Gabrielle Prince, and they are members of the Baker Lake First Nations. And it's illustrated by Carla Joseph. You want to come? Who is Cree and now lives far east of here. But they all grew up in the same place about 7 hours north of here. So all the illustrations you'll see are places that you could get to in an hour from here. Be a good ancestor with water. Raindrops become puddles, puddles become streams, streams become rivers, rivers become life. Be a good ancestor with this land. Seeds become seedlings, seedlings become trees, trees become forests, forests become oxygen. Okay, let's all take a breath. Thank you, trees. Be a good ancestor with living things that fly. Eggs become hatchlings. Just behind you also. Amber, just behind you, somebody. Yep, can you see? Okay. Eggs become hatchlings, look how fuzzy. Fledglings become eagles, feathered but not flying yet. Eagles become iconic, which means that they mean more than just their birdiness. Be a good ancestors with living things that swim. Eggs become eggs become alevins. Alevins become fry, little fish. Fry become sockeyes, and sockeyes become nourishment, food for our bodies. Be a good ancestor with living things that walk. Newborns become cubs. Cubs become young bears. Young bears become grizzlies, and grizzlies bring balance. Be a good ancestor with your neighbors. Neighbors become friends. Friends become communities. Communities become nations. Nations become allies. Be a good ancestor with your thoughts. Thoughts become ideas. Ideas become actions. Actions become movements. And movements become change. Be a good ancestor with your words. Words become expressions. Expressions become stories. Stories become narratives. And narratives become truth. Be a good ancestor with your words. Be a good ancestor with your feelings. Feelings become compassion. Compassion becomes understanding. Understanding becomes beliefs. And if you are a Unitarian, our values become our principles. Be a good ancestor with yourself. Children become adults. Adults become leaders. Leaders become elders. Elders become ancestors. Be a good ancestor. We'll take you back to your classroom. You can have fun with her.
Did you want to make an announcement?
The children will be coming back to Lindsay Priestley for their class today. The younger teens have OWL, and then there is youth group after the service.
There are many ways to contribute to this congregation. For example, last night, many assembled with meat and sweet pies and trivia about the number pi. Another way to contribute is through gifts of money, and each week we collect an offering to support this self-sustaining and independent congregation. If you are able to give money, we will pass baskets, or you could give online. A part of our offering is given to support the broader community through the Outreach Opportunities Fund. And this week, we are supporting Out in Schools, BC's award-winning gender and sexual diversity education program. While we take the collection, Sean will serenade us with another one of his original compositions, the Canadian Railway Tragedy. And we'll now take an offering for the work of the congregation.
Okay, I'm going to do a tune. It's called Canadian Railway Tragedy. I dedicate this to my grandfather, who was an actual railway worker and came over to Canada, I believe, in 1883. Fortunately, I never met him because he passed before I was born, but he was, anyway, did work for the CPR Railway, and is one of the fortunate guys that managed to survive this ordeal, because a lot of the workers did not survive. It was pretty dangerous work, dynamiting, blasting rock through the Rocky Mountains. Anyway, this is called Canadian Railway Tragedy. Do 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 do. Jo gong jo do say, work until you die. Do do ba do ba. Jo gong jo do say, work until you die. Set sail from Guangdong province to blast steel through goldless mountains. mountains, though exploited from half our wages, working on until we break our backs for dead to every mile of track. Whoa, whoa, hear that whistle blow. Whoa, whoa, go hear that whistle blow. Canadian horrific railway, give us redress for the blood that we paid, working on until we break our backs for dead to every mile of track. Ba-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo-doo-da-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo. Jo gong, jo do say, work until you die. Do-do-ba-doo-ba, jo gong, jo do say, work until you die, so that future generations can hit that highway of information, still surviving in this nation, working on until we break our backs for dead to every mile of track. Whoa, whoa, go hear that whistle blow. Whoa, whoa, go hear that whistle blow. Canadian horrific railway, give us redress for the blood that we paid, working on until we break our backs for dead to every mile of track, working on until we break our backs for dead to every mile of track. Do-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo, do-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo, do-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo, do-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo. Jo gong, jo do say, work until you die. Do-do-ba-doo-ba, jo gong, jo do say, work until you die. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Thank you for Stanley Joe, my grandfather. Thank you.
Please join me in reading a gratitude haiku. We give from our hearts, grateful to share and receive. Hope blooms from kindness. And then I'll invite up the candle lighters.
Sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Nancy, and our candlelighter today is Carol Siebert. We take time in every service to share our celebrations, our sorrows, our joys, and our concerns by lighting candles together. As each candle is lit, please take a moment to hold each request in your heart and join us at the end in saying, we light these candles together. There is so much turmoil in the world today. Before turning to the personal joys and sorrows of this beloved community, today we light a candle for all the people in the world who are suffering the effects of war. We hold them in our hearts. We begin with personal candles of joy. Fiona wishes all Celts a happy St. Patrick's Sunday. And now we turn to candle requests for those more difficult life events. John has requested a candle for the passing of Seti Pandikir, February 11th, 1934 to March 10th, 2026. Seti, a longtime member of this congregation and for many years a very active member, died last Tuesday at the age of 92. He was the first person of South Asian extraction elected to City Council, and for a while he was our deputy mayor. He was surrounded by his family as he was overcome by pneumonia. We end with one final candle for all those joys and sorrows that we are carrying that have not been spoken aloud today. Please join me in saying, we light these candles together.
Good morning, I'm Goethe. We take a moment in our service for silent reflection, prayer, and meditation. To help us transition to this time of silence, I offer this reading by Hermann Hesse from his 1920 book, Wandering. When we are stricken and cannot bear our lives any longer, then a tree has something to say to us. Be still, be still. Look at me. Life is not easy. Life is not difficult. Those are childish thoughts. Let God speak within you, and your thoughts will grow silent. You are anxious because your path leads away from mother and home. But every step and every day lead you back again to the mother. Home is neither here nor there. Home is within you, or home is nowhere at all. So the tree rustles in the evening when we stand uneasy before our own childish thoughts. Trees have long thoughts, long breathing and restful, just as they have longer lives than ours. They are wiser than we, if we do not listen to them. But when we have learned how to listen to trees, then the brevity and the quickness and the childlike hastiness of our thoughts achieve an incomparable joy. Whoever has learned how to listen to trees no longer wants to be a tree. He, she wants to be nothing except what he, she is. That is home. That is happiness. Please join with me in a few minutes of silence. After the silence, we will listen to a piece of pipa music, as we intended to before Zoe unfortunately became sick.
I am my ancestors' wildest dream come true, and I would not be here if it weren't for their dreamings, their hopes, and most importantly, their living. None of us would be here were it not for those who lived and won a fight that they were not meant to survive. This is said by Unitarian minister Reverend Daniel Gregor. Today, Jean and I will share the stories of our shared ancestors, the Hakka people. I have self-identified as a Hakka person. Hakka means sojourners, guest people, outsiders, for as long as I can remember, without really knowing what it meant. But I know that I was at least partly inspired by my grandma, who lived with us until I left home. Grandma, a Hakka woman with quiet strength, yes, that saw her through her life that was full of disappointments, worries, and tragic losses. But I also remember her gentle containment. As I grew older, I began to wonder about who were the Hakka people. And I learned that I was born into the history of a people who have fought to survive through thousands of years, of being marginalized, of having to take up roots, to migrate on countless routes, to adapt to all different kinds of circumstances. They had also put down roots again and again wherever they were able to land along their very long migration journey. I was intrigued and continued to question, why did they have the name Hakka, the guest people, the outsiders? I learned that they have had the name Hakka imposed on them by other Han people, the largest ethnic group in China, about 90% of the population. And they were outcast by these other Han people, of which Hakka people were a part of. These long and arduous conflicts did not stem from racial, ethnic, or religious differences, but was mostly the result of constant, fierce competition for fertile land, for livelihood, and for survival. From as early as the 5th century, the first 5 major migrations of Chinese people moved south from northern central plain, escaping the invaders from the north. A large number of people were forced to flee their home in Yellow River Valley, moving south over the centuries of migrating and traversing many provinces, finally arriving to southern China, near Guangdong and Fujian, the coastal, the southern part, where they find more of the fertile land. But alas, they arrived late, as the earlier groups of Han Chinese settlers, the Cantonese and Fujianese, already arrived there earlier in this part of southern China. And by having arrived there early by a few hundred years, they had already established their distinct identities and language. So this group, as latecomer, became target of hostility, as they were regarded as outsiders and threat for competing for scarce land and resources. As a result, this group continued to endure hardships, survived on poorer land, in mountainous area, and living in insulated conditions while they kept migrating to other provinces. They go from north to the coastal and moving inland. That's why they were called Hakka, guest people, reflecting their outsider status. It is in this long and challenging history the group formed their identity, developed their own language and the cultural traits, one of which was their defensive skills for the group survival. Another question I had was, they were called Hakka, the guest people. Over time, they call themselves Hakka, too. So I wonder, wasn't it tragic enough that these people were victimized by people who were of the same background, but now they took on the same derogatory name to call themselves? Should I call myself Hakka, guest, in relation to who, the host? And how do I respond to the question, where do you come from? And where do I belong? This self-identity as guest people, I continue to learn, have come about as they wanted to acknowledge being the descendants of the migrating people through long time and vast space. And they now bear the name with pride as the badge of honor, honoring the tremendous struggles by their ancestors that resulted in their being here today. Here, let me share a few distinct characteristics of the Hakka people. The women were best known for their unbound feet. Look at the feet, because during that, we have hundreds of years of women binding their feet, 3 inch long. It was another story. So Hakka people women refused to bind their feet. This allowed them the freedom to move, working in the field, as well as domestic responsibility. That helped them to be very independent and actually taken up central roles in their migrating life as communities. Hakka men, however, were often absent from home, often away for study. Like my grandpa, he was away a lot in Japan to learn pottery making. Or the men would go fighting along their migrating routes, like many of my distant uncles, who joined in the revolutions in many of the political unrest and upheavals. Some have left indelible marks in history. So, for example, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, he's our national father, who led the revolution and overthrew the Qing dynasty and established the Republic of China in 1911. And the other is Deng Xiaoping. He is the architect of modern China. Deng was instrumental in opening up China for economic growth in 1980s. That transformed China to a modern nation in the world today. Hakka housing, that is the interesting architecture. It's called Tulou. That means earth building. Listed as UNESCO heritage site is another legacy. A particular type of communal living, noted for pooling skills and sharing resources. They help shape very strong communities. But above all, it is for defense. The Tulou was built like a wall city against the hostile outsiders. So some of the characteristic, this is the older woman doing her daily work inside the Tulou. There are some collective characteristics emerged over 2,000 years. Hakka people are known to be risk-taking, open-minded, hardy, very thrifty, and also very stiff neck, and very stubborn, like my father. I remember well. During the 19th and 20th century, as a result of relentless political unrest and upheaval and poverty at home, another migration movement this time took them overseas, to Southeast Asia, to India, to Taiwan, to Hawaii, and to the Americas, searching for settlements. The plantations in the Caribbean islands and railway buildings and mining all saw many Hakka people in the Chinese diaspora doing difficult work to make a living. Over time, many of them continue to roam and migrate farther afield. Today, their pioneering spirit, they have successfully settled in different parts of the world today, total in 80 million people, scattered in over 50 countries. For me, I'm only half Hakka, it's from my paternal side, but I feel a very strong affinity with my Hakka ancestors' tumultuous history. I would like to carry the Hakka memories with me, and in turn will influence the choices I make and the matters I turn my attention to. So I think it's good to be returning home to the source, to our ancestors, for historical continuity and through generations to come. My dear friends, as Reverend Daniel Gregor says in the beginning, all our ancestors had gone through tremendous hardships for survival, so for us to be here today. So it stands to reason that our Hakka ancestors and the ancestors of yours will have much parallels and recurring themes in their respective stories. So I invite you to also to do some digging about your ancestors, so to uncover some of the many similarities in our collective past. I will also venture to say that these similarities might even bring us closer to another over the many differences, whether they are real or imagined, that separate us and divide us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jin He again. I'm a Hakka Chinese from the village of Paksantung, Miaozepiang in Guangzhou, China. Thank you, Meijia, for inviting me here to share. It's my first time here in the Unitarian Sanctuary. My talk today is called Returning Home, My Hakka Roots and Routes through Land, Air, Water, and Foodways. Here's my Hakka village, Paksantong, means hole in the White Mountain. Miaozepiang, it means the valley with a small temple. Our ancestral home, which you can see in this small building there, which later became our ancestral hall, was established in 1810 during the Qing dynasty, over 200 years ago, by the 19th generation Dalianzu of my hall clanship. I'm now the 26th generation, the 7th generation to call this Hakka village home. Both my parents are Hakka from nearby villages. The Hakka people are unique among the Han Chinese groups because we are named after the language we speak rather than the geographic region. The character of Hakka literally translates to guest families. Growing up in my Hakka village, the idea of being a guest family never stood out to me. Instead, I learned how to be a good host. We always had visitors, and the dinner table was always full. Later, as I learned more about the long migration and struggles of the Hakka people, as Meija shared, I began to understand something deeper. Being Hakka is being in a reciprocal relationship with another. Being Hakka suggests to me a philosophical understanding that the guest and host relationship is infinitely dependent and interchangeable. With people and the environment, one needs to understand how to be a good host in order to be a good guest, and vice versa. To me, being Hakka also means practicing respect, reciprocity, and generosity toward all beings, the land and the cosmos, while honoring the ancestors and the conditions that sustain life for generations. When we say to someone, make yourself home, it suggests generosity in the context of mutual care and respect. So as guests in this vast universe, I often ask myself, whose home are we visiting right now? And how can we show generosity, mutual care, and respect? I was fortunate to spend quality time with my Hakka-speaking grandparents and relatives while growing up in China. Many of my relatives, including my father and my maternal grandmother, Jiapo, still live in our village and remain deeply connected to the land. Hakka people also believe our ancestors live among the stars. I like to share a story about my paternal grandmother, Apo. One Mid-Autumn Festival, Zhongqiuzhe, the sky was clear and full of stars. Sitting beside Apo in the courtyard, I asked, "Grandma, where do shooting stars come from?" Apo replied, "They are stars pooping." How poetic! I remember laughing and thinking about her imagination. Years later, I discovered through a Hakka language channel that Hakka idiom for shooting star is "sin sin xia si," literally star star pouring down poop. Suddenly, my grandmother's answer made perfect sense. It was not just a playful language, it was poetry, a way our ancestors connected to the sky, the cosmos, and everyday life with humor and wonder. The sky is also our home, and our ancestors are still speaking to us there. When I was 14-year-old in 2003, my father uprooted my family from the Hakka village without consultation and immigrated to the so-called Vancouver, Canada on Turtle Island. Over the past 2 decades, navigating my own Hakka routes, I went through many phases. As a teenager, I tried to self-assimilate into the Western culture and even pretended to be from Hong Kong because I felt ashamed of my mainland Chinese label. Later, I came out and still coming out as a queer person to my homophobic father and siblings, shaped by the Hakka patriarchy. Thankfully, my mother accepted and embraced my queerness, and slowly but surely, others followed. I study architecture through a Western lens focused on form and function, but eventually my master's thesis was inspired by the land and by the Hakka ways of living with the land. Today, I worked as an intern architect learning from local indigenous communities. In many ways, this feels like a full circle. Far away from my Hakka village, I have found that home can also live in the heart, in the relationship we carry with others and with the land. 10 years ago, in 2016, when I moved to Winnipeg for graduate school on Treaty 1 territory, I began learning about Canada's colonial history and broken treaties. Flying into Winnipeg, I was amazed by the vast prairie landscape, like I saw stars pooping for the first time. But on the ground, that all turned into horror as I drove along endless highways and saw the industrial-scale monoculture farms that replaced much of the tall grass prairies. Upon returning to BC, the notion of unceded territories became impossible for me to ignore. I began to notice similar patterns, endless monoculture tree farms that devastating clear-cutting logging across the mountains and forests. Canada's colonial history is only about 160 years old, yet massive destruction continues. Meanwhile, my Hakka ancestors have cultivated small plots of land by hand in the whole of the White Mountain, Paksantung, for over 200 years. In Hakka culture, the mountain landscape is seen as the back of a dragon, a sacred being that deserves respect. So when I see clear-cut mountains, I ask, how dare you shave the back of the dragon? 6 years ago, in 2020, during the COVID pandemic, I joined the old-growth logging protests at Fairy Creek on Pichidat First Nation territories. Someone asked about my name. What's your name? I said, Brian, without hesitation. Then they asked, is that your real name? People use camp names here to protect their identities. Then I paused and said, actually, my real name is Jin. From that moment, everyone called me Jin at camp. Working in the kitchen serving food for 2 weeks, I reconnected with my Chinese name, Jin, that my ancestors gifted me, Ho Kim Long, which means colorful dragon. Jin or Kim in Hakka means vibrant and colorful. For the first time in a long while, I felt at home when people call me Jin. I have since dropped my English name. Sit Hoi Fan Mang, have you eaten yet? It's the Hakka way, it's the way Hakka people greet each other instead of asking, how are you? This simple question is a gesture of care, checking whether someone's basic needs are met. Food is deeply embedded in Hakka culture. It represents community, reciprocity, belonging, nourishment, and medicine. During the pandemic, I began growing and cooking food with my mother. It became a way for us to rebuild relationships with the land, with our bodies, and with each other. For me, this practice is also part of my reconciliation and decolonization as an uninvited guest living on unceded lands. That, however, is another story for another day. Returning home for me means to have a relationship with the land, just as my Hakka ancestors have always done. It means returning to foodways, to caring for the basic needs for ourselves and our guests. It means learning to be a good host and a good guest at the same time. I came across this wonderful phrase from a book titled The Land We Are, which explores reconciliation in Canada. The phrase, the land we are, invites us to ask, how does our relationship to the land reflect who we are? What do we become as the land suffers and as it heals? Where do we find nourishment and how do we nourish each other? How do we be guests and hosts on this land we are? Here, I would like to end with a short poem I wrote about being Hakka. This image you see on the left is the same Mandarin you see on your pamphlet just 2 weeks after. So I would like to share a short poem I wrote about being Hakka, a guest family, and about living as an uninvited guest on unceded territories here on Turtle Island. The land we are is the land I am, the truth echoing over vibration, spiraling across air, connecting bodies of water, whispering care and generosity through land and concrete facts. As an uninvited guest on this land I am, as people of Hakka, guest family, how do I be on this land we are? Thank you.
Thank you, Jin. So we're going to do hymn number 194, but we're first going to do it, we're going to have our Chinese speakers do it first in Mandarin, and then the congregation can join for English. So, thank you everybody for joining us for this wonderful service, and now we will carry the flame.